All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Anacortes City Council Joint Special Meeting with the Port of Anacortes Commission. So glad to see everybody here, but I do have to formally open the meeting. So Mr. Franciak, if you could, I'd like to call the Anacortes City Council meeting to order, and Mr. Franciak, if you could just note the roll for the record.
Roll is noted. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ottenbright, if you want to open your meeting with the commissioners.
Yeah, it's 4:05 p.m. on Monday, August 18th, 2025, and the Port of Anacortes Special Commission meeting is now in session. Just as a matter of note, Commissioner Petrich has an excused absence tonight.
And thank you. And Councilmember Hubick is unable to be here as well. Okay, so before I jump into this 50-page PowerPoint presentation, no, I'm just kidding. I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. So when the port and the city sat down together on this topic many times, we're not really just talking about facilities and buildings. We're talking about the future of our community. An event space has a potential to be more than just walls and a roof. It can be a gathering place where neighbors connect, where our people can celebrate milestones, where visitors can experience the character of Anacortes, and where local businesses feel a lift of new energy. Today's continuing conversation is about imagining what we can build together, something that strengthens our economy, honors our sense of place, and leaves a lasting benefit for generations. So with that in mind, I'd like to move forward into our little presentation I have, and myself and Mr. Executive Director DeMoss will talk about a few things before we get into the discussion. So just a little agenda. So I'm going to start with some background and talk about some funding, and then do an awkward transition to Director DeMoss, and then we'll open it up for public comment, 3 minutes. And I appreciate some of you folks that have already signed up, so I'll come and bring a microphone, or Mr. DeMoss will bring you a microphone, and it will record your public comment. Just keep in mind, the meeting is not being live streamed, but it is being recorded. So you can look at that later. And then we'll have some discussion between our elected bodies, the commissioners and the council members, who ultimately it's their decision to make on these interlocal agreements. And then hopefully we'll have some action, and maybe if everything works out right, we'll have signed some interlocal agreements. So that's the agenda. So let me get into the background a little bit. So there's a lot of words on this slide, a lot of dates. One of the dates that's interesting, the 2021 date, transit shed returns to marine use. I think that was probably the decision there. I think the port said, this time for real, 2 years, we're going to close it down. I get it. And I recognize that. It took me a while to recognize that really critical decision for the port, and ultimately support it. You're talking about one of 11 deep water ports in the state of Washington. It's an important economic driver for our city, and the port as well, where, and some people are like, well, are you in the maritime business, or are you in the entertainment business? Well, recreational boating on the shallow water side, the Cap Santa Marina, I think makes a lot more sense where you have an event center. So again, as painful as it was, I think for a lot of us who've all been to wonderful events at the transit shed, understood that decision. So ultimately, all the electeds got together, and we talked about how we're going to move forward, knowing that we need a facility like this. And then it's interesting to go through a lot of the plans, because people think we write plans and then we forget about them. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But there's more plans that we've written that says we're going to cooperate and work on an event center. The interesting one that I signed back in 2022, the Anacortes Maritime Strategic Plan. And in there it says, Anacortes Maritime Strategic Plan on page 13, continue planning and development of event center at Cap Santa Marina to increase tourism and hospitality assets in Anacortes. Also signed by EDASC and some other folks. So we said we were going to do that, and that's what we're doing. There's been a number of community meetings since and again, I'm going to go in deeper background before this, but Port City public meetings, we had a meeting where we signed an interlocal for design, so you'll see some of the conceptual designs that came out of that, where we first started spending some money on this project in earnest as a joint Port City group. And then we've continued with the public meeting back in November. We had a meeting where we were going to work on the construction ILA, but I think both elected bodies felt like we should have an operational ILA as well, because that's really what we're looking to get to tonight is a construction ILA and then an operations ILA. So I think it was important for both city and the port to have agreements on both those as we move forward. And then Tiger Team, we call it that. We've had a number of meetings, and that usually consists of one or two council members and one or two port commissioners with key city and port staff, where we're following through the design process. And then interlocal for design and construction, that's why we're here tonight. So we'll talk about that some more, and we're going to look at even more. So this, if you didn't know, if you're new, this discussion has been going on really long before the transit shed was formally turned over back to maritime industry. But even with the port's North Basin plan in 2012, the City of Anacortes Tourism Promotion and Strategic Plan, I actually did forget about that one, but we wrote in there that a portion of our, and that's why we have some money actually sitting in the bank. It's kind of rare for a government organization to actually sit on some money to save it up for something good, and we think that's what's going on here, so we did that in 2016. That was the same time we passed our comprehensive plan that I was happy to vote on in supporting that, and I'll read a couple things from that comp plan. It talks about encourage special active waterfront uses, including lodging, conference facilities. Also, page 36, encourage development of civic community gathering place and destination events / concert, meeting, music venue, or conference center with hotel in downtown waterfront area. And I'll probably hit this again when we talk about funding, but I've probably said publicly a couple times that, yeah, event centers, I know I've said publicly, I was hoping for a private partner to come in and solve all of our problems and say, hey, we're going to build a hotel with a wonderful event center, and whoever gets there first wins. That would be great. We'd support that. That really hasn't panned out. And part of that is because those event centers, they don't really make money on their own, but they're a great economic generator. So for example, and I don't know if he's here and wants me to disclose, but a hotelier, basically when we ultimately made the decision to move forward, I think there was some relief there that they didn't have to kind of come up with that plan, even though we were offering to partner with some money involved there. But it will allow them to concentrate on building more hotel rooms that we need, and that'll ultimately generate more LTAC funds, but I'll probably get to that when I talk about some funding. But again, we've been looking at this for a long time and going through some more dates there. I mentioned the maritime plan. We have a memorandum between us and the port in 2018. Again, the North Basin redevelopment design, transit shed, looking for other stuff. Anyway, we've had a lot of meetings, both public and behind the scenes, working this forward. So, and then in a different view, a long timeline, and again, this is supporting our friends at the port with their Northwest Basin concept, where we're already seeing that come to fruition. If you didn't know, the RV park is part of that development, so I think that's a good thing, and been working hand in hand with the city all the way along. So again, as far back as 2013. And I know there are a bunch of folks in the room that have been on various, I think it was called the Northwest Basin Redevelopment Advisory Group. And events, and under that, they also had an event center subgroup. I know a number of council members were on that, whether they were part of the Arts Commission or the Arts Festival group, or a schools foundation, sports auction, chamber. So a lot of folks have been in the room and been part of that conversation, talking about the event center as a subgroup, collecting that data. What are the needs there? All right, now we'll get into it's fun stuff for me, but sometimes not as fun for everybody else. Funding. So what we've spent so far, jointly with the port and the city, we've spent about $77,000. Again, using half of that LTAC funding. But you'll see some concepts that we got out of that. What's next is kind of the number that we're working with, and I'll jump right to this estimated $8 million. So starting with that, I need to back up. The shared design cost in this interlocal agreement, this construction ILA agreement, the port and the city have agreed to share design costs of this building. So I think that's an important thing to point out. And I have this $4 to $6 million bonded by the city. So why is that at such a wide range? Well, because we don't have a 100% design or even a 60% design of facility. But to the right there on the screen, you'll see what I refer to as a notional funding plan. So we do actually, at the bottom, you see cash on hand. That is what we're holding in the bank of lodging tax dollars that have been set aside for an events facility. So you see if you've got, if you bond $5 million, and again, I know these are notional interest rates and notional terms, but we think, talking to my finance director, those were reasonable a few months ago. You're talking maybe $300,000 of debt service for the event center. And then you see our lodging tax receipts from 2022 to 2024 around, ideally $600,000. So that's kind of the number there. And then it's like, okay, why is the city paying for this is the question I get all the time. Well, under RCW 6728, 1817, so lodging tax revenues may be used for capital expenditures of tourism-related facilities owned or operated by a municipality. So that's how we're in the mix, and it makes sense. Again, ultimately, funding-wise, we think doing the calculations, the event center will cover the maintenance and the staffing of it operationally, and then the LTAC dollars will obviously cover the construction of it. But again, ultimately, I understand, I know there's chamber reps in here, the squeeze on the LTAC dollars. I think we all have been talking about that. Ultimately, we believe that in the long run, it will be generating more LTAC dollars, more economic activity for the city. So I think that's about all I have on the funding side from the city's perspective. I know we'll discuss more. And then with that, I will turn it over to Director DeMoss from the funding port perspective.
Down arrows. Down arrows. Okay. Hi, I'm John DeMoss. I'm the Executive Director of the Port. Jumping back into this project as I've onboarded, to the Mayor's point, the interlocal agreement from the funding perspective on our side, we have shared the design costs as we've moved forward under our first ILA, so that has been a great partnership. When we look at funding the ILA, we'll continue to that design cost, and then we look at the construction cost. So the building is one component of this. The second component is that construction cost that's going to go around the event center. As the mayor has alluded to, this has been a topic since 2012, again readdressed in 2014, 2017, 2018, 2019. I mean, it's been an ongoing conversation. So we've had visibility, and our commission has looked at our capital improvement plan with this costing in it for quite some time in a lot of different forms. So we understand that, to do the public access that's connected to the event center, and it's going to be part of this space, the realignment of the road, the consideration of the heavy haul route, which is a very important part of our economy, of being able to get it off to the truck route, get down to our pier, and the parking lot, which is a component for our marina tenants that we have to consider, and consider that as a very large picture. It's about a $7 to $8 million construction cost, and that is for those three main things that we'll be doing. When we look at how we're going to pay for that is a mix. As I said, Commission has looked at this on CIP, so staff has been carrying budget into this area for some time. So it's going to be a mix of our operational revenues, the ability to go out and get grants, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as some tax funding. One of the very few things that we can spend the tax dollars that we pull from the public is public access. So the Commission is very dedicated to making sure that when we talk about spending tax dollars, there's only a couple things that we can do that, and this is one of those projects because you do have parking which is open to the public, and there will be a brand new public access space right on the waterfront. So those are the three real components that will look to fund this $8 million of infrastructure that'll be in and around the building. We talk about grants. That seems to be a very common theme with the port right now. We've got about $80 million of grants, so we want to add to that. So there's opportunities by both the city and the port to go out and get grants. We already have Community Economic Revitalization Board grants that both the city and port are very familiar with. There's rural port Community Economic Revitalization grants that could play into this. We were successful at our RV lot of getting a recreation and conservation grant. We would go to that for that public space because we do think it's important to have this event center movement over to the depot and have that really transition. Our architect that both the city and port has worked with, the work that the city's doing on the depot, having that automatic or natural transition over into this waterfront section is really important, and our architects have done a really nice job of connecting these two areas, and it fits well with our North Basin work that we've just recently completed. And then there's county grants that we would go after. So this would be the first start. The ILAs were real important as we have to get past certain things before we really start asking for grant monies. But we do feel like we'll have a real good chance of being able to offset some of this cost with some of the grants that are out there. So the design objectives. This is where it's important when we looked at that and the Tiger team looked at it, the body of electeds, is when they look at this design and we're working with the architect, they did reflect back to the 2014 and the 2018 workshops and some of the public outreach to kind of come to some very core design elements that they would want in this space. It needs to be centrally located to support the downtown core. Jordan Hayes' Downtown Alliance and how we connect to that central business district, and it's beautified and it's natural and we can get down to those businesses from the event center is really important. Capacity, 400 people with 8-person tables with plenty of room for amenities such as buffet tables, a green room with separate bathrooms for the users, a warming kitchen, enclosed storage so tables and chairs can come easily for our users and our community members and our nonprofits to get in and out of the space really easily. And then as anybody that's gone to the transit shed, we want to improve your bathroom experience with built-in restrooms and having enough of them so that in January you're not hiking out to a trailer. So those were all considerations, and the elected bodies, when they were sitting down with the architectural team, Jeff McClure, that they pulled that information from the 14 and 18 outreach. So that's where there was a lot of discussion. How do we incorporate these public comments that we've had in the past into those buildings? So there's some objectives there that we want to stay true to. With that said, there's a use of LTAC and some tax, so cost is a consideration, right? We've got to make sure we're fiscally responsible with those funds, so anything we look at, I know the elected body wants to be very conscious of the cost of this building as I move forward. We're not even at 30% design, so it's easily incorporated into the future meetings of our Tiger team as they design the rest of the building if we move forward. So. Siting and development, this has existed for a decade. The conversation about a partnership for an event center together is 2021, but this overall look at where we're siting has been part of the West Basin redevelopment plan for a very, very long time. So we really approached this with not spending a lot of money on pictures, not predetermining what's going to go on this waterfront, really just rectangles and get this area permitted for redevelopment, and then let the businesses and whatever come into these spaces and build and develop in those spots. So when this topic came up, that development area C seemed like a very natural fit. To Mayor's point, It provides waterfront access to our community and users. It is low water. It's very attractive. You're looking at the water, you're looking at the best marina in the state. And it provides that environment. It's not sitting on a deep water port that's an industrial area with a lot of commercial activity. So that development area C felt like a very natural fit, which is why we focused on that. And we do think that the rest of the development could contribute to this event center with some other development that'll be natural ties. And then you can kind of see that overflow exterior space. That will be a natural public access area right there on the water. That'll transition to the city's depot property that they're now in the midst of improving and making bigger. So we're going to have this really nice waterfront flow between the two facilities. This is just the more expensive version of that last drawing that I showed you, but it does show some of the landscaping concepts and how we want to make sure that green belt. It does kind of show how we're going to beautify that turn when we realign the five-way intersection. If anybody that's ever been down to Market Street, coming out of the marina, that's really confusing, so that realignment's probably the first thing that we need to get done, and we need to beautify it as the depot expands and we do that public access area. So that's just more of an artistic rendition of it, and it kind of shows some of the flow through that area and how we tie our trail systems and promenades and the walks that the public enjoys. Here's our design concept. So apologize, we've corrected some of the, I know the port got a lot of commentary. We've gone back on two different versions that were out there in the world as far as a visual. This is the basic concept of the latest round that's being designed right now. The footprint got smaller than the original drawings, things like that, as we've removed port offices and we removed a lot of things. This is simply a design or an event area with a little bit of retail on the front to create some energy, and that's it. So we had a little bit of clarification that we made. It's really important to note that this is not even to 30%. So this was an ask of our architectural team, put a basic concept, a basic footprint out there with some lines so that the Tiger team, the city and port team can work together and kind of start building a vision there. As we move forward and if the ILAs get signed, that'll give us the ability to start really diving in with our architectural team and a lot of that support activity and looking at this design and what we want to do. So our timeline. Tonight is really important. Our first interlocal agreement was important. It allowed us to start designing it. This one lets us get to the finish line. So to Mayor's point, we have a design and construction, which will allow us to continue to fund the design of this building and then build the building, as well as this ILA requires the port to do the infrastructure around it. So those will go hand in hand. And then the second one is the operation, which is post-construction. We've got an open event center. It's going to describe how we're going to run that operation. So if the elected body chooses to authorize us to go into these agreements, we'll get those signed. And in Q4, we restart the design activity, we restart some of those activities, and we move forward. This is just a highlight of some of the activities going forward. It's planned out. We've got a great design team with RMC and his subs. They have been actively involved in this process in many iterations since 2014. So we are not starting from scratch, which is going to give us some efficiencies going forward and to be this aggressive in wanting to deliver the community center back into Anacortes. So that's just an overview that we want to get open for business in Q2 of 2028. At that time, I will turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you for that. So this is the time where we're going to do public comment, and I appreciate, as always, you must know me, that you signed up for public comment. We'll try to get as many as you all as possible. So 3 minutes to speak. We're going to try to conclude the public comment at 5:15 to give the elected bodies time to deliberate on the subject. But we'll Director DeMoss has graciously agreed to help me run around the room with a microphone, but I'll start with Mary Staley.
Put my glasses on, I'm reading. So I'm here as representing the Anacortes Art Festival and the Creative District, and this is from Meredith. This is Meredith's letter because she can't be here. So it says, Dear members of the Anacortes City Council and Port Commission, on behalf of the Anacortes Arts Festival and the Anacortes Creative District, I am writing to express our support and enthusiasm for the proposed Event Center project, a collaborative partnership that we believe holds immense potential for our community. This initiative represents a significant step forward for Anacortes, promising to be a transformative addition that will greatly benefit our nonprofit organizations, bolster the vibrancy of the Anacortes Creative District, support downtown businesses, and serve as a powerful economic driver for tourism throughout Skagit County. Anacortes is a home to a wealth of nonprofit organizations that are integral to our community's well-being. A modern, well-equipped event center will provide these groups with an invaluable resource for fundraising galas, educational conferences, and public gatherings. This facility will not only give these organizations a professional and accessible venue, but will also help them to grow, thrive, and better serve our community. Furthermore, the Event Center is perfectly positioned to become the crown jewel of the Anacortes Creative District by providing a central hub for performances, exhibitions, and other cultural events. It will amplify the district's presence, attract new audiences, and foster a more dynamic and engaging cultural landscape for both residents and visitors. While we are fully committed to the success of this project, we do have some concerns regarding the building's design. We believe it is crucial that the center be designed with long-term viability in mind, specifically its ability to accommodate a wide variety of events for decades to come. The design must be flexible and adaptable, capable of hosting everything from large-scale conventions and trade shows to intimate concerts, art markets, and formal banquets. To ensure this outcome, we respectfully suggest the formation of a small, focused stakeholder group to provide input on the design process. We believe this group should include representatives from key organizations such as the Anacortes Creative District, the Downtown Anacortes Alliance, the Anacortes Chamber of Commerce, and Skagit Tourism, among many. A collaborative approach now will ensure that the Event Center is not only a beautiful addition to our city, but also a resilient and economically sustainable asset for generations to come. Thank you for your vision and partnership in making this project a reality. We look forward to contributing to its success. Sincerely, Meredith McLenwell.
Thank you very much. And sorry if I didn't say at the beginning, please state your name and city for the record. Next up, I've got Kristen Keltz.
Thank you. Good evening, Council and Port Commission. I'm Kristen Keltz. I'm with the Skagit Tourism Bureau, and I reside in Mount Vernon. The Skagit Tourism Bureau strongly supports the development of the new Anacortes Event Center and the positive economic impact it will bring to our community. This facility represents an important opportunity to not only host weddings and local nonprofit events, but also to attract meetings, conferences, and association events from across the region and beyond. These types of gatherings generate overnight stays, dining, shopping, and recreational spending that directly benefit your local economy. Equally important will be the thoughtful design and comprehensive sales and marketing plan. A well-designed venue paired with a strong strategy to actively sell the space will ensure the event center reaches its full potential as both a community hub and a driver of economic growth. We believe this project will elevate Anacortes as a premier destination for visitors and event planners alike, while also providing lasting benefits for residents and local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, John Sternlick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and Port Commission. I'm John Sternlicht. I reside in Anacortes, but I am the CEO of the Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County, which of course serves the entire county. We've been supportive of this project for just about the entire 10 years I've been here, which is, I learned that you have been discussing it even longer than that. There are a lot of things, and we've also been consulted because we are the ones who host Economic Forecast Night every February, and that is about a 360 to 400 person at 8-person round tables event. And we appreciate being consulted, but we also appreciate the eventual option to have another place to hold this kind of event. I will also say that I'm on the board of both the Skagit Tourism Bureau and the Anacortes Arts Festival, so I say amen to what both of these folks said. But it's important to know that there are all different kinds of events besides Economic Forecast Night. There are smaller meetings. I believe we can draw people from Seattle and the entire region to come up here for retreats and that sort of thing. And it's not just about the amount of money that the event center itself will make. It's an economic engine and a multiplier. There are caterers and florists and party planners and wedding consultants and all kinds of other people who come into the mix and who generate income and circulate it in the community, and that can't be understated. EDASC always tries, when we have an event, to stimulate the local economy with that event by using a lot of these service providers. So that's an important thing to consider, and as well just to consider it as an amenity for our community that will draw people here and that will keep people here. So some of these other less tangible things, there are formulas that you can use, economic formulas to determine multipliers, but there are many layers of this that I hope you'll keep in mind, and it's for that and other reasons that EDASC continues to support this venture. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mary Trester. You're not? Okay, all right. Again, I'm sure if other folks are representing your position, that's fine. Next up is, sorry, I got to put my, I think it's Wary? Okay, yeah, here you go. And yeah, that's why you state your name in case I misread it.
I'm Trina Wary. I live in Anacortes. I've been here for just a couple of years. I'm excited about this potential event center, but one of the things I really want to stress, and I would like to add to your list, Mr. Mayor, of benefits, is the opportunity for this kind of center to bring what John just alluded to, which are the intangible benefits. It gives us an opportunity to have connection with people, to not be on our screens, to get out and see people, and in an unusual manner too, potentially, in terms of the different kinds of events, from education to economic events. So I think this is a critical piece of Anacortes moving forward long term. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next signed up, John Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mayor. And John Wilkinson, Anacortes. Share the enthusiasm of the other groups for this project, and congratulate the port and city for working so well together on it. One thing, putting on my businessman hat, it's fairly well defined on the capital ILA where the funding will come from, and some caps on maximum cost, etc. On the operating ILA, which I guess the port is going to manage, I think it'd be helpful, and presumably you thought about it, to think about if there's negative cash flow years, especially getting this thing up and running and getting minimum occupancy levels, where does that funds come from, and are they represented well to the citizens, taxpayers? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't have anybody else signed up, but now it's free-for-all time. If you want to weigh in, we have some time. Get 3 minutes. There you go.
I was coming to hand it to you anyways.
Oh, were you?
goaded a little bit. Hi, Marta McClintock, Anacortes. I am the executive director of the Island Health Foundation and also the immediate past president of the Noon Rotary. I've been on a couple of these subcommittees. I do want to compliment the port and the city for coming together with this arrangement. I think this is so critical for our community, for our nonprofits especially, which I can talk to. But we did a straw poll among our executive directors sort of coalition in 2019, and at the transit shed alone, nonprofits raised over $3 million that went right back into this community. And so that economic driver alone, just from the nonprofits, and I think as Trina said, the sort of untouchables with that as well, like people coming together. And one of the things I love most about being a resident in this community is how strongly we're involved in the nonprofits and how much we gather around those events. So very much in favor, very excited for this to see a timeline and hoping that these agreements come together tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There we go, John.
Hi, Michelle Pope from Anacortes. I would like to echo everything Marta just said. As the director of the runway show that the senior center does, we need that space. And we can't afford to go beyond what we're already doing with the casino. So with that said, I really hope that we can be careful we don't outprice the nonprofits by making too fancy of a building or not making it affordable for us who live here. Because we provide a lot for the community, and we need the space to do that.
Thank you. All right, who's next? All right. All right, you're going to give a lot of time for the council and the port commissioners to deliberate, but the council members do have a council meeting. Oh, we got some. Oh, here we go.
Sorry, you could have yelled my name.
Well, it's hard. I'm just going to echo quite a few of the other people who spoke already. Jessica Kaiser with the Anacortes Chamber. We're definitely in favor of the new event center and appreciate everybody's hard work on this. Appreciate the design objectives that have already been identified. There's a couple more we've talked about, so appreciate Meredith's suggestion for there to be a stakeholders group to kind of give a little bit more input. Love that the local community, large events and weddings will definitely be able to be here. Definitely want to keep in mind the conferences, multi-meetings, and retreats as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else for public comment? Because ultimately the commissioners and the council members have to make the decision on this, so I will go to the next slide. Going once, twice, it's okay. We can have a break between the meetings. All right, this is elected official discussion, and I'm going to go down the line, starting with Ms. Moulton. Sorry to put you on. I didn't warn you to put you on the spot first, but if.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. It's great to see such a good turnout. Is that better? Okay. So yes, it's great to hear all of the support. In fact, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't heard more concerns, but that's great also. And I look forward to discussing this with the rest of the group.
Mr. Walters?
I am very pleased where we have arrived. It has been kind of a long journey. In 2016, we started putting money away for this from our lodging tax fund, and that's why we have $1.5 million available for this project now. We've identified another $1.5 million in grants. We've got a preliminary cost estimate, and we'll hope to bring that down. And so put all of that together, we think that there's a good chance that we might not have to dip any further into our annual lodging tax allocations. We did make some cuts last year to sort of preload some of the anticipated reductions, but also to save more money. And so I'm very hopeful that we will be able to continue our current allocations going forward with very little change. But that all, of course, depends on how well we do in the design process and with our grant applications. Certainly, there's more work to be done. But financing has been foremost on our minds since the get-go. Even with a little worse interest rates than were projected on the screen here, we're still looking at a very doable project. And if a new waterfront hotel is built, which we anticipate at least one of those, our estimate is we could reasonably bring in another 10% annually lodging tax, which would significantly strengthen the amount of money that we have available for the nonprofits that put on events. We have also ensured through our operations interlocal agreement that the port will make available to the city at least 12 days annually in the shoulder season that the city can then in turn make available to the nonprofits to ensure that the facility is available at a reasonable price to those organizations that contribute so much to the community. We are also talking about minimizing impact on marina tenants, and I think that that's really the port's focus, and they will, I'm sure, talk about more. But the city has been aware of that concern as well throughout the whole process, and we are certainly not opposed to any provision in the event center design that helps minimize those impacts. We want to be a good neighbor. You saw the design on the screen here, and we absolutely expect further evolution of that design without compromising our requirements, that 400 seated capacity with a catering kitchen, storage, green room, and restrooms. Really, the port and city have worked extraordinarily well together over the past year and a half to get to where we are now. It's been such a longer process prior to that, but we should really celebrate the work that's been done in the last 18 months, and I'm really looking forward to the next steps.
And Mr. Ottenbreit, with your permission, I'll just go down the line and ask Mr. Ongren to, all right, Mr. Ongren.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see so many people here and be with the city. A couple comments that come to mind. One is Mayor Miller mentioned that caught my ears, honoring our sense of place, what a magical place we have, and to build upon that. Our marina, from visitors all around the world, as a marina user myself, it's just a great place, and I think this is an opportunity to really take our community to the next level, and the marina is a great place to showcase that. Economic engines, multipliers, we've heard all of the comments. I think those are really good to keep in mind, something for the port to not lose sight of. Parking, if there's an issue that keeps coming to my ears, being brought to me, is to make sure we don't forget about parking and the users and the tenants, and to keep them in the process and discussions as we go forward. As a longtime user and benefiter of the transit shed over the years, it was a tough decision, as Mayor Miller said, but I think we made the right decision for the port, and we're making the right decision now to find a special place to replace the port for all of our end users. So, again, thanks for being here, and I'll pass the mic.
Thank you. Mr. McDougall.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for being here this evening, and I actually don't have a ton to say other than, thank you to my colleagues on the council, Mr. Mayor, and our friends at the port for the incredible partnership, and really as a big supporter of this project, I think the community itself tonight has articulated terrific reasoning for moving forward with the project, so thank you.
Ms. Bowers.
Thank you. It's hard to summarize what everyone else has already said, but I have a few comments. First of all, thank you everyone for showing up tonight, and we hear what you say, and we've been considering it for so long. Thank you to the city officials and the port officials for coming together. This is the best of government, when two separate entities can come together and do what's the best for the community, so thank you for that. In the next stages going forward, I really encourage all public input that we can do. Like so many of you, I have concerns over the cost of this project, as the city does and the port does as well. And perhaps we can work on that design to make it commensurate more with a small town feel and flexible, so that we can have expositions as well as events there and celebrations. So I really hope we can do that, as well as consider all of our current marina tenants, our commercial fleet, our small boaters from the ACB, and our recreational boating community. We want to make sure that they're included as well. Mr. Wilkerson, I heard your comments, and we went over this, for years as we operated the transit shed. We did so at a small loss. And I think about how the city operates and how any branch of government does, and there's just some things that people can't do for themselves, so government does them and assumes that loss. And I am hoping and praying and know that we have great staff at the port that will keep this on track. But we do anticipate a small revenue loss in the first years of operation, and we will track that and make that public information. So thank you for that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the private business part. You know, we did get some criticism early on about taking businesses away from hotels. We have 2 hotels within walking distance, really close to this event space, I can't see this doing anything but enhancing their business. Depending on which coffee shop you go to, there's 2 hotels planned in this immediate area in the next 5 to 10 years. I can't see anything but this place helping them attract business to their hotels. And now that they don't have to do a ballroom, they can put more rooms in, which I believe is more profitable for them in the long run. I know that parking is an issue in downtown and at the marina as well. You know, our parking study, I think it was our most recent one, showed that we have adequate parking except for 6 events a year. And you all know what those events are. They happen every year, and town is crowded. We operated out of the event shed, the transit shed, for nearly 20 years, and there was no parking, and we survived. So I'm not that concerned about that issue. And lastly, you know, not just for economic development in our community, but this space will give us a place to gather, which is so important for our community resiliency. Ms. Ware said it so well. Those interactions and connections that we make with folks at public gatherings, they build a framework for the future collaboration that we need as a small community. You know, and last, I think back to the transit shed and the times that we gathered for celebrations, like when the Sally Ride was done, the great boat that the World Cup boat, or boaters, help me out here. You know which boat I'm talking about. Help me out. Yes, the BMW Oracle. Those were great celebrations. We gathered to honor our veterans. Just so many special times over the years, and I'm so excited that we will have an opportunity to do that again as a community. So thank you for your support here tonight.
Mr. Fantini.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming here at 4 o'clock on a Monday. It's good to see that there are a lot of passionate people about this project. As I was listening to the public comments, it really struck me, and I know it's kind of hard to see this because obviously our Port City Liaison Committee meetings, the Tiger Team meetings, they all tend to happen when not everybody from the public can be there, but all of the thoughts and the concerns that were brought up tonight were also thoughts and concerns that were discussed and are shared and are still being talked about by our elected officials. I don't think there was a single time when we were talking about cost of design center when Councilman Walters mentioned, hey, let's make sure we keep this affordable for our nonprofits, that, you know, this is a big reason we're doing this. Or Councilmember Cleland McGrath mentioned, you know, we want to make sure that the space is usable and that we have the opportunity to make it flexible. Like, these are all things that were brought up and discussed. And I brought up several times, to your point, hey, we need some good marketing because this is not Field of Dreams. We're not going to just build it and they will come. We're going to have to do some marketing, and we're going to have to do some good recruitment around folks to get here. I think a lot of appreciation and gratitude I have for everybody that has been on the Port City Liaison Committee, as well as the full council and the full Port Commission who have discussed this at length, because it was a group of people truly coming together to get a greater good done for our community. And I do think that we're living in a time where, to Bonnie's point, you know, we can't just do things on our own. The city can't make a big lift on its own anymore. The port can't make a big lift. That's not the world that we're living in. It really takes multiple groups to come together to have solid impact. So it was great to be a part of those discussions. I have a lot of cautious optimism around the funding. You know, I'm always somebody that tends to get a little overly excited about a great idea. I am very optimistic, but cautiously optimistic about the funding, and we are definitely going to be looking forward to help from our community members, from our stakeholders, to find additional grants, opportunities for funding sources. But this has been a really great process to be a part of, and I think we're hitting a really important benchmark here tonight, and I'm just glad everybody's here to share that with us.
Ms. Bittis.
Again, thank you everyone for coming. It's good that I follow TJ because he's the optimist. I am not. I think of all the worst case scenarios, and funding obviously is one of them, but then what I have to go back and look at, and I'll just look, and I can only speak to the port, our track record is amazing on grants. I'm not saying we're going to get them all. We got them all last time. Everything we went after, we did. And I think a lot of people know what those dollars amounted to. But I know what our track record is. However, when we take out the pencils and sharpen them, we're looking at worst case scenario on that. So we know in the beginning, people plan out a wedding or an event a year or sometimes 2 in advance. So when you first open up, you're not going to be full at the beginning. However, we're also not staffing it full-time in the beginning, or having custodial or janitorial full-time in the beginning. So we understand that, and there's that part of the port that does run like a business. So I feel very confident, especially with all the questions that I have berated the staff with over the years, of where that lies. And I feel good about that. The other part is that flexibility. Yes, that has been heard, and we've wrestled through that time and time again. And the other part is, how do you make this affordable for our, what I call, core nonprofit events, but also at the same time maximizing as much as we can the profitability? Those things are not mutually exclusive. So we started out with a lot of language that I can look at, maybe the attorneys that put things together and how to do that. And then it came up with a really simple plan. You know what? We're thinking right now, there's those dozen events. And the city can go ahead and take those events, and those are for our community. And then the price range for what we call the profit events can be put at a certain amount as well to maximize the profits. And there's flexibility in that too. So we have, again, thought through that, wrestled with that. You see all smiling faces here, but there's been times where there have been phone calls and times across the table where it has been a little tense, but always with a mutual respect at the end. And that's the part I am most hopeful and happy about moving forward. The part that, like I said, I tend to look at things in a very negative way all the time, but I do have a human side, despite what most people say. That idea of community and what our culture is, oh my goodness. Or look at one of the coaches for the Anacortes football team. What did that football team do for this community? It brought people together, a sense of pride, how important that is for youth, but for the adults and the community. That was our team. We talk like we won the championship. I was not on the field. I was there cheering for them. But whether it be that event or whatever strikes your passion, that we can get together, that makes this community so much stronger. It increases volunteerism. It increases that pride as far as we take care of things. We don't see the graffiti and the different things because we take care of these things, and the youth then have that as part of their culture growing up. And then what keeps happening and what we do, again, as a culture, as a community. And if we're not gathering, we saw that through COVID, and I'll bring that up too. That was the other negative thing, because I hear that. What happens if there's another time that things are shut down? Yes, it does, and guess what? We've come out the other side. We already know what happens. Events start again. People need a place to gather and come together again. So it's not the end of the world if something does happen. I planned for that, but then I'm really glad that we work really well together because the eternal optimist over here. So I think we're a really good combination. And with that, our end, and turn it over to you.
Ms. Cleveland McGrath.
Thank you. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to both Port staff and city staff. You guys did the lion's share of work, and obviously attorneys too. But that you all had to be the ones that took our list of concerns, try to process through them, and come out the other end. I will say that when this all started a few years ago, I was optimistic, but didn't have a lot of hope that we could get the two entities to work together to put something on paper. These two interlocals are very detailed. They were more detailed. They were more complicated and challenging. And then we kind of came back and said, let's simplify these, really making sure that we shared the right intent and goals and purpose with enough language that whoever's sitting here 18 months from now or 2 years from now still can go back and look at that information. I think that the LTAC funding as kind of our major funding source is about as consistent as we can hope for funding. And the fact that we hopefully have come up with a plan to use a portion of that income to build a physical place for us to gather as a community is really important. And I think that the rough design really fits the site-specific location. I think that the general design from the architects are good. We'll need smaller windows, lower ceilings, so it's a little more affordable, but we can get there with that. I was someone who painted and pulled out staples for a number of years from the transit shed, from the Arts Festival. So I have a very strong affinity for that space. And so I hope that this new space has some of that grit, has the ability to be flexible for a number of user groups. I do think we need to have it designed in a way that weddings want to be there, that brides want to be there, that tourism such as conferences want to be there. And so we need to do it tastefully. It needs to be timeless, but it also needs to reflect our Anacortes aesthetic. And I think that, yes, there has been talk of somehow a private developer or a hotel might want to put this in. From what we've talked and done our research, that just, the numbers don't work. This is our opportunity to do something that, yeah, probably isn't going to turn a profit on its own, but because we don't have food and beverage, because that's really where the profit comes from when we look at hotels, when we look at casinos, things like that, the direct competitors, is that food and beverage is where they really can make the numbers work. And the problem with that is that doesn't allow our nonprofits and our smaller events to be able to make those numbers work. So that's why we were talking, doing a catering kitchen, and then allowing each event to kind of determine what vendors they want to use, which is going to be hopefully local folks. So I just think that this is a really good opportunity. I'm excited about it. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys. We will continue to engage with you. But I'm almost more amazed by the fact that we have put two interlocals together than some of the designs the architects have come up with, to be perfectly honest. Huh? Oh, you want to talk some more? Oh, God. We're not even to Anthony yet. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, okay. I had to. So yes, I just want to, I think that there's a lot, this is going to be a really cool thing, and I also want to say thank you to the Port for, these are 3 building pads that are pretty important to the Port land. And I'm hoping that by investing in one of those pads, the other 2 will attract private business, private developer to do some really cool stuff. This is our opportunity to also support our downtown core, and really just kind of show our community and our potential investors, our local businesses, that like we want to make sure that this is an opportunity and a place for everyone to gather. So thank you. I'm excited.
All right. Mr. Ottenbright. Oh, I got to go down the line. That's the
You gotta do it down the line?
Yes,
Okay.
the fairest way to do it. We'll come back. Everybody gets one shot, and then we'll open it up for.
All right, thank you. So I'm relatively new to the community, so a lot of times I just bring a fresh eyes in terms of how I look at things. I don't know all the history or the people, but in looking at this issue, just so you understand a little bit of maybe someone from my perspective looking at it, I went back to the guiding documents at the Port of Anacortes when I first got on there in 2023. The Port of Anacortes, this is the guiding documents for the commission, so this is how we run the port, the history, how you kind of carry that history on. The Port of Anacortes comprehensive plan goes back to 2004 or 2008. It's about 20 years old. And there's a list of a lot of people that had input into that process that many of you in the room will know, been around for a long time, past commissioners, past community folks running the nonprofits and whomever. But you look at the history of the documentation that's there with the comprehensive plan, it's still relevant today. We've done about 60% of the work in that plan. We built a marine education center. Somebody thought about that 20 years ago. We put that in the South Basin. We did the North Basin redevelopment. We've done waterfront development. There's the Port of Anacortes North and West Basin Concept Plan, the Anacortes Marine Strategic Plan, which Mayor Miller mentioned early on, which also brought up the event center. So coming into my first meeting in 2023, when I came on and Joe Verdos came off, the topic of the transit shed came up and said, we said we're going to exit the transit shed, and this was March of 23. And so now we need to make a decision, are we going to do that? And I'm first day there, so how do you have any input on that? I said, well, what did we say we're going to do? And, well, why don't we do that? I say that because there's a lot of input that's gone into this. There's a small amount of land, it's an island, gone into this event center concept. And really, I'm just carrying that on. What I think is unique about the time and place we're in right now is the design came up right on the waterfront. I think that is an investment in community. It's a great location. I rely on all the people up here next to me to bring different aspects. There's a lot of smart people up here talking about the design of the center, talking about the history of the area, talking about legal aspects, the ILAs, a lot of kind of the heart of the community. I'm more logical, so I rely on a lot of folks up here to kind of bring that other aspect to it. But I think this is an amazing opportunity for the community. We've dug in a number of issues too. We just didn't listen to community input and then, carry on like, this is something the community has talked about and planned for 15 years. So then parking was brought up. And we said, we need to understand the parking issue. And they'd be like, yeah, well, it's, we don't have a problem. No, I want to understand the parking. I want to know how many spots there are. I want you to count them. I want you to look at the buildings. And if we put all these buildings in the West Basin, what does that do to the parking? What does this do to the parking? I thought we wanted to connect this to the downtown. How does that happen? And you see the designs kind of pulling all that together. It came out that if we did all 4-story buildings and maximum build out, which we're not going to do, that we would need 804 spots, and we've got 799 when we put in the new parking. So I think we're okay with parking. And as someone else up here has said in the past in Anacortes, I don't know who it was, someone up here said we can have nice things in Anacortes or we can have parking. So I vote for the nice things. I will leave it at that.
All right, Mr. Young.
Thank you. As many of you know, I am a person of few words. And, but, you know, really, I'm both humbled and honored to be a part of this event space, but also this community. You know, this community really does bring its heart to the table. And truly what we have here is unique in so many ways. Part of the goal in our strategy and coming forward is to try to brainstorm what we don't have, what we do have, what we love to see, what enhances the life here in Anacortes. And many of you, as I look out in your faces, I see those efforts, those little cuts of hope that comes in. Part of this was, I think, as Mr. Albright said, when the exit came for the transit shed, it was a blow. Looking at where we come from that blow till today, sometimes difficulty brings about the best in all of us. Challenge allows us to reach for the heights. And I remember shortly after that discussion, I probably called many of the port commissioners myself. The mayor and I had several conversations about it. We reached out to Ms. Stickles at the chamber. We met with a number of the nonprofits that are here in the area trying to figure out what the heck do we do and how can we go from here. There were so many iterations of onto the depot, adding the tent to the depot, and then, you know, Majestic had some great ideas, and then other people, but those were the genesis and seeding of this discussion to bring us to where we are today. And what's so beautiful about all of that is that we have something that will help our city further differentiate itself. And the very people that are here that are spending money trying to figure out how do we enjoy life, don't go off island as little as possible and bring other people to enjoy what we have. The truth of that is that I think that we've come to a place now in our vision for this city in that we don't necessarily, and I say necessarily, have those that want to revert us back to the fishing village that we once were, because many believe that that's the best thing for us. And then there are others that felt that we needed to become a Manhattan or Seattle. We didn't want that. And then there are those that thought we just don't need that bridge bringing you over onto Fidalgo Island anymore if we can keep everything and everyone here. You know, I used to believe that you tell everybody about our city. When I first got here, I was telling everyone about it. And I remember seeing some of the natives looking at me like I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, telling me it was raining inside this building. I've kind of converted to the thing that I'm trying to preserve what we have. Maybe one lane coming across the bridge. But finding those things that we can do to enhance our lives here. And so, you know, part of the, you know, for those of you that don't know me, I am one that believes if you really want to make me happy, bring me to a brainstorming session. Okay? And the sky's the limit. So in this case, as we were beginning to discuss how we would do this, there are only, you know, I love where we are, but there are a couple of concerns that I have too. I'm glass half full, but I'm also very much a realist. And, but, you know, again, I agree with some of the sentiments about making sure that we build for the future. Because if we only build for what we need right now, that assumes that where we are right now is the maximum. That's not true, okay? And then secondarily to that, facility use. You know, we've got the nonprofits that are here that bring so much to the table, the Rotaries, the Soroptimists, the Kiwanis. You know, I mean, it's just so many things that other cities don't have that we enjoy. And those dollars that come to the table to help make the city shine like that is all appreciative. So one of the things that I want to make sure that as we go forward in this process, because I'm all for this, is that we build toward the future. I think that we can add in those things that we are missing, such as naming rights, bricks. I'll buy a couple of them with our little name on it, other donors. But LTAC dollars are important for those organizations that are still here trying to bring things. So it's a hybrid. And I think that that's being recognized by everything that's been said before. You'll probably hear this from me, and I'm going to say it again, and there are those of us that may disagree a little bit on design. And I'm going to be the first to admit that I got a couple of tweaks that I think are critically important. I love the idea of a warming kitchen. But I think that when you talk about a facility having a warming kitchen, that's one thing. It encourages, shopping local. I totally get that. But I do think it's critical that we have the ability to pull up to a Airstream that can be a mobile kitchen that can plug in on the outside and still give service if that's what we need. We just have to have that option of being able to plug it on the side, some kind of way that it works. It allows us to have the best of both worlds. The choices can be the individuals that are renting it and how we move forward. Those are critical components that I think it would be short-sighted if we missed. But ultimately, I love the idea of getting people together to help have input. I really do. What I think we need to make sure that we are, as Ms. Cleland McGrath said, I think she said iconic, or whatever it is, the word is that it, humdrum. I still think windows are important, and I think that the view of the water is everything that we need, and we shouldn't necessarily just lock ourselves in to one vision. Let's look at what we would like and then work our way back. I think that would be the best thing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your input. And as I said to you earlier, I was going to be brief.
Well, thank you. So, Ms. Pittis, I'll come back to you in just a second, but I want to do a quick housekeeping because ultimately the goal is to have both the legislative bodies approve each of these interlocals. My intention is hopefully the council member will make a motion to approve the construction, and maybe the port makes a motion to approve the operations motion. Either way, but with that, ultimately, that's where we're going to get. So if you're going to talk again, you get bonus points if you make a motion with it. So Ms. Pittis. Ms. Pittis? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I move that we authorize the executive director to enter into the interlocal cooperative agreement for design and construction and the interlocal cooperative agreement for the operation of an event facility with the city of Anacortes.
I really didn't want to end with negative comments, so that's why I wanted to kind of slip in there, but I just can't help myself. So it's addressing the negative. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about there are multiple off-ramps on on the document. So whether it be funding, there's actually different reasons, whether it be permits, that there can be off-ramps executed by either the port or the city to not move forward. I think that's really important to state. I am very pleased that Commissioner Ottenbright, because he is our commissioner with all the numbers as far as the exact number of parking spaces, for example. But I'm just going to go back to, again, recent history, because we can draw on that. It's not what we say, it's what we do. And what has the port done? I remember sitting through meetings that there were, and I understand the concerns with parking when we were moving forward and thinking and contemplating an RV park on the north end. I remember even being on staff at that time and actually personally being a proponent of that. Ultimately, it's the commission decision on that. Also sitting on the side of the commission when we heard comments, and the majority of those comments had to do with parking in the north end. However, we had a brilliant director of operations at the time, John Dumas, and we had a parking plan, and what it was formalizing the parking, good signage, bringing people forward that had shorter-term parking, putting people towards the back that had long-term parking. And what ended up happening, and I've had many people comment to go, wow, how come we got so much parking and an RV spot? You know, And that's recent history for us. We do not plan, the city does not plan for those 6 events per year, or even use the most recent event. It's a great economic driver. It's part of our identity when we have the Arts Festival here in town. But we are not building a parking lot for 80,000 people over 3 days to park their cars. I think we can all agree on that, that is not a reasonable request. So yes, there are headaches to be had with some of those events, but some of those events are what, again, identifies our community, and we're willing to work through that. With the parking that's going to happen, we are formalizing the parking. You saw a slide up there of how much money we are investing into that parking spot. We were doing that anyways, with or without. I just want to make that really clear, with or without the event center. We have moved up the timeline, so we have that parking available when the event center opens up. So it is formalized, because now you know that part of that is gravel, that's formalized, but also taking into consideration areas such as traffic flow, load, unload. Those are things that are important to boaters, and we hear that, and we are addressing that, and it's already part of the plan. So those were the negatives I wanted to address.
So, Commissioner, we do have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, so I was going to go, and then seconded. Any discussion? Further discussion? All right, all in favor? Do we do that on the port side first, right? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? All right.
Okay, and I don't, it's a different form of government. I don't get to make a motion as mayor. I just get to chair the meeting. So I'll be looking for council members to make the motion.
Mayor Miller?
Mr. Walters.
I move that we authorize the mayor to execute the interlocal with the Port of Anacortes for both construction and the interlocal for operations.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Walters and a second by Mr. Young to approve the interlocals as presented. Any additional discussion?
I'd like to speak to the motion. For our first joint meeting on this topic in March of last year, a community member handed me port site plans for the Cap Santa Marina and the basin from 1983, and they included an event center. My point is this, we are not at the finish line here, we're about at the midpoint. But there's no silver medal if you don't make it across the finish line. So we are going to get there now. This is maybe the best chance that we've had in the last 40 years to do so. A lot of work still to come, but I think we're ready to do it. And thank you all for your work till this point. Thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion? So a motion by Mr. Walters and a second by Mr. Young. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so all right. Thank you. Yeah, we can go ahead and applaud. All right, so Director DeMoss and I are going to sign the documents showing our commitment to the shared responsibility as we move forward. So we'll make this official. All right, so I've got some closing statement I'd like to read real quick. So by signing these interlocal agreements, we are putting in writing what we've already demonstrated in spirit, that we work together, we can accomplish more for our community than we ever could. This event facility will be a place where our residents gather, where businesses thrive, and where visitors experience the best of what our city and port have to offer. Years from now, people will be enjoying this space without thinking twice about the hard work and collaboration it took to get here, but we'll know and we'll be proud. I want to thank the Port Commission, the City Council, our staff teams, including the attorneys, everyone who's contributed ideas and energy along the way. Together, we've taken an important step forward, and I'm excited to see this vision come a reality. And with that, I will adjourn the special City Council meeting. Mr. Ottenbright, if you need to adjourn yours.
It is 5:24, and the special Port of Anacortes Commission meeting is now adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.